Have you ever wondered why society is so scared of a woman who's been through the worst, yet still stands tall? Why does the broken Sigma woman make people nervous? Let's get into it. So, if you've ever felt like society doesn't quite get you, you're not alone. Sigma females are misunderstood, and today we're talking about why the broken Sigma woman scares the world. It's not about weakness, it's about power. And we're here to break down exactly why that is. You've probably heard it all before. Sigma females are loners, or they're too independent. But when you've been through the pain, built yourself back up, and kept moving forward, people get uncomfortable. They don't know how to handle you, and that's where the fear comes in. It's not you, it's their insecurity. Let's talk about 8 reasons why the broken Sigma woman strikes fear in society. 1. She's been through the fire and came out unburned. Society expects broken people to stay broken, but the Sigma woman doesn't just survive, she thrives. She's been through heartbreak, loss and betrayal, and still, she stands with a strength that most can't fathom. People are scared because they don't understand how someone could heal and still be so powerful. People expect that when a person goes through something difficult, they'll fall apart. Society's idea of recovery is often centered on showing vulnerability, weakness, and dependence on others. But the Sigma woman isn't like that. She doesn't wait for anyone to pick her up, nor does she need anyone's approval to keep going. The world sees a woman who has been hurt and expects her to remain fragile, to always carry the weight of her scars. But the Sigma woman? She turns her scars into her armor. It's like every painful experience she's been through only added fuel to her fire. Where others break down, she builds up. People expect her to be broken forever, but instead, she finds power in her pain. It's a paradox that people can't seem to understand. How does she heal, yet still remain so strong? They don't realize that every challenge she faces is just another test of her resilience. Each heartbreak, each betrayal, has taught her something valuable, something most would never learn. It's not about pretending to be fine when you're not. It's about building a foundation so solid that nothing, no heartbreak, no loss, can knock it down. Society wants her to remain stuck in her pain, to live in her grief forever. But the Sigma woman uses her pain as a stepping stone to rise higher, not as a reason to stay down. She doesn't wallow in self-pity. Instead, she reflects, grows, and moves forward with an unshakable belief in herself. Her strength doesn't come from pretending she's invincible. It comes from knowing that even when life knocks her down, she can always stand back up. That's a kind of strength that scares people. When others go through difficult times, they might lean on friends, family, or a support system. But the Sigma woman doesn't need that. She finds her own strength. She knows how to navigate her emotions, face her fears, and keep pushing forward. And when she does lean on others, it's not out of necessity, it's a choice, a sign of trust, not weakness. People are afraid of how independent she is, how self-sufficient she's become after facing hardship. They don't understand how she can heal from the worst things and still emerge more powerful than before. It's like they expect her to be a victim of her experiences forever, but she refuses to let herself be defined by her pain. Instead of letting the world see her as someone who's been broken by life, she shows them what's possible after life tries to tear you apart. She doesn't just survive the fire, she walks out of it stronger than ever. This is what scares society, the Sigma woman's ability to heal, grow, and come back even stronger. They can't understand how someone who's been through so much could still be so unbreakable, so fierce. It's not something that fits into their narrative of pain and recovery, and that's exactly why they fear it. Pause for a moment. If you're relating to this or finding these points helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. Let's keep going. 2. She doesn't follow the script. Everyone has an idea of what a woman should do after heartbreak. Cry, stay down, wait for someone to pick you up. The Sigma woman? She rewrites her own story. She's not waiting for a rescue, and that scares people. She's not playing the victim. Society wants women to follow a script, a set of rules that are supposed to guide their reactions to pain and hardship. When something goes wrong, people expect them to feel weak, to ask for help, to look to others for validation. But the Sigma woman doesn't need anyone to tell her how to feel or how to act. She's already figured it out for herself. The world says she should be broken after betrayal or loss, but she doesn't follow that. Instead, she takes control of the situation, writes her own narrative, and makes the rules. It's as if the world hands her a script, and she simply throws it out the window. When life gives her lemons, she doesn't just make lemonade. She takes the lemons, adds some spice, and makes something no one saw coming. People expect her to be defeated, to let her circumstances define her. But instead, she uses those same circumstances to build something stronger. Society teaches women that they should be fragile after hardship, that they should cry for attention, seek sympathy, or wallow in their pain. But the Sigma woman doesn't need any of that. She's learned that pain is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define her. She takes control of her own journey, creating her path from scratch. And that's what terrifies people. Society is so used to the script, the one where people are expected to break down after hardship, that they don't know what to do when someone doesn't follow it. They expect the Sigma woman to crumble, to need others, to show her vulnerability in a way that pleases the world. But she doesn't. She doesn't play by anyone's rules, and that scares those who are still stuck in the old narrative. The Sigma woman isn't just following a script, she's writing her own story. When life throws punches, she hits back harder, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. There's no waiting around for someone to come and rescue her. She knows she's the one who has to save herself, and she's more than capable of doing so. She doesn't ask for permission to heal or to grow. Instead, she takes control of her own power and steps into her future on her terms. People are often uncomfortable with how fiercely she lives her life. She doesn't care about the opinions of others, and she certainly isn't interested in playing the victim. She understands that her journey is hers to create, not anyone else's. And that's what makes her so powerful. While others may still be stuck in old patterns of emotional recovery, the Sigma woman moves forward, creating her own unique healing process. Her strength is in her ability to say, "I don't need your script, I'll write my own." And this freedom to create her own path is exactly why she makes society uneasy. It's like a threat to everything people think they know about overcoming struggle. The Sigma woman doesn't just survive, she thrives, because she's not afraid to break the rules and make her own. That kind of power, it's too much for the world to handle. Pause again. Do you feel the Sigma woman's strength in your own life? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Now, let's move on to the next point. 3. She's a master at cutting people off, and people know it. This isn't about being rude, it's about survival. The broken Sigma woman has learned to walk away from anything or anyone that no longer serves her growth, and when she does it cleanly. People fear that decisiveness because they know she won't stick around for nonsense. Life has a way of testing people, and for the Sigma woman, one of the hardest lessons is learning to let go. But when she does it without hesitation. Society expects her to keep toxic people around, to work things out, to give second chances. But the Sigma woman, she doesn't waste time trying to fix what's already broken. She understands the importance of boundaries, of self-preservation. She's been through too much to let negativity and toxicity linger in her life. She's learned that sometimes the best way to heal is to walk away from what's hurting you, no matter how much it might sting. People are scared of how easily she can cut ties. It's not that she doesn't care, it's that she knows her worth and won't settle for anything less. She's not afraid to walk away from relationships, whether they're friendships, family ties, or romantic connections. She recognizes when something is no longer helping her grow, and she removes it from her life. And the people who are left behind often don't understand how she can do it so effortlessly. They expect a dramatic outburst, an emotional breakdown, a drawn-out process of trying to fix things. But the Sigma woman is quiet and decisive. She doesn't need to explain herself because she knows what's best for her. This ability to cut people off, to put herself first, is what intimidates others. Most people feel guilty when they cut someone out of their life, even if that person is toxic. But the Sigma woman? She's learned that sometimes cutting ties is the most loving thing she can do for herself. And when she does it without looking back. People fear that level of clarity because it forces them to face their own lack of boundaries. When someone can walk away from relationships without drama, without hesitation, it makes everyone else question their own attachment to the people they keep in their lives. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. The Sigma woman's strength lies in her ability to recognize when it's time to move on, and she does it with grace. She doesn't need validation from others to make that decision. She trusts herself, her instincts, and her journey. She knows that if someone isn't adding value to her life, they have no place in it. And that's a boundary that most people can't seem to understand. She's been through the fire, learned the hard lessons, and now she knows exactly what she will and won't tolerate. The Sigma woman doesn't give second chances to people who've shown her their true colors. That doesn't make her heartless, it makes her smart. She values her peace, her happiness, and her growth above all else. And when she cuts people off, it's a sign of her strength, not her weakness. People are scared of that power, and rightly so. The Sigma woman doesn't need anyone to complete her, and she knows that her peace is priceless. When she walks away, she does it with the confidence of someone who understands their worth, and that's why others fear it. Fourth, her silence speaks volumes. You know how some people talk to fill the space? Not her. The Sigma woman's silence is a weapon. She doesn't need to say much, but when she does, you feel it. She doesn't chase attention. Instead, people gravitate toward her presence, and that's what unsettles people. They can't predict her next move. Most people talk because they want to be seen, heard, or understood. They fill the air with words to connect, to share their thoughts, or to get validation. But the Sigma woman doesn't need that. Her silence is intentional, powerful, and it speaks louder than any words ever could. While others scramble to be heard, she observes, analyzes, and listens. She knows when to speak and when to stay quiet, and that control over her words is what intimidates others. People fear silence because it exposes vulnerability. It forces them to confront their own discomfort and uncertainty. They don't know what the Sigma woman is thinking or what she might do next, and that unknown makes them nervous. It's not just about not talking, it's about choosing when to talk. The Sigma woman's words are deliberate and thoughtful, never rushed or empty. She doesn't waste time on small talk or unnecessary chatter. Every word she speaks has purpose, and when she does speak, people listen. Silence gives her the space to observe. She watches how people move, how they react, and what they don't say. And through her silence, she learns everything she needs to know. It's a skill most people lack, being able to sit back, stay calm, and take in the situation without reacting immediately. This makes her unpredictable. Others try to read her, to guess what she's thinking, but they can't. She's not giving them anything to work with. And that's what makes her dangerous. People can't control or manipulate someone who doesn't reveal their thoughts easily. They can't gauge her emotions or intentions because she keeps them to herself. Her silence is often misunderstood. People might think she's shy, disinterested, or even cold, but in reality she's just being strategic. She knows that in a world full of noise, silence can be the most powerful statement. People talk to fill the gaps, to make themselves known. But the Sigma woman? She fills the room with her presence. Her energy is enough to command attention, even if she never says a word. And that's what makes her so magnetic. She doesn't need to shout to be heard. People are drawn to her because they can sense that there's something more beneath the surface. Her silence keeps them on edge, wondering what she's really thinking, and that uncertainty gives her power. Silence doesn't just make her seem mysterious, it makes her unpredictable. And people fear what they can't predict. They fear the person who can sit in a room full of chatter and still make an impact without opening their mouth. The Sigma woman doesn't need noise to be heard. Her silence does all the talking for her, and that's why her silence is more powerful than any words could ever be. Before we go on, Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on more powerful insights. Let's dive into the next point. 5. She makes people confront their own insecurities. When you're around a broken Sigma woman, you start to question your own fears and weaknesses. She doesn't need to say anything, just by existing, she exposes the cracks in others. It's uncomfortable because people are forced to look inward and face what they'd rather ignore. There's something about her presence that makes people feel like they're being seen on a deeper level. The Sigma woman has this quiet way of forcing others to reckon with their own issues, and it's not something they're used to. Most people prefer to live in their own little bubble, comfortable with their insecurities and flaws, pretending like everything's fine. But the Sigma woman doesn't pretend, and that's exactly why she makes people uneasy. She's been through her own struggles, and because of that, she doesn't shy away from the truth. She doesn't mask her pain, her imperfections, or her mistakes. Instead, she owns them, and that authenticity is magnetic. But here's the thing, when people see her embracing her flaws, it makes them face their own. Her rawness forces others to examine themselves, to think, why can't I be as open or strong as she is? It's a challenge people aren't ready for, especially when they've spent so long hiding behind their own masks. The Sigma woman's strength lies in her willingness to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. She doesn't act like she's perfect, and that scares people because it makes them realize they've been pretending. While others are afraid to confront their own fears, the Sigma woman has already done the work. She's faced her demons, overcome them, and is unapologetic about who she is. And when people are around her, they can't escape the mirror she holds up to them. It's not a harsh judgment, it's just a simple fact of being around someone who's unafraid to be herself. That's the power of the Sigma woman. She doesn't need to point out your flaws, she just exists, and that's enough to make you reflect on your own. She doesn't try to fix others, but by living her truth, she inspires others to do the same. The Sigma woman's presence pushes people to deal with what they've been avoiding. Her confidence forces others to question why they haven't found the same level of peace with their own insecurities. They start to wonder why they're still holding on to outdated fears or toxic habits. The Sigma woman doesn't accept mediocrity, not in herself or anyone around her. She challenges people to rise up, to be better, to confront their own weaknesses. And when they can't meet that challenge, it's a painful reminder of how far they have to go. People are afraid of this because they don't want to be reminded of what they've been hiding from. They don't want to face their own self-doubt, their own limitations, their own past mistakes. But when they're in the presence of the Sigma woman, they have no choice but to confront it. And that's what makes her so powerful. She doesn't just exist, she forces others to grow, whether they like it or not. The Sigma woman doesn't need to try to fix anyone because her very being is a catalyst for growth. And that's a threat to people who are still stuck in their own comfort zones. 6. She's not afraid to be alone, and that's terrifying. Society teaches us that we need others to feel whole. The Sigma woman? She's learned to be alone without feeling lonely. And that scares people because they can't control someone who's content in her own company. The world is built around connection. People are expected to find joy in relationships, socializing and being around others. There's a constant pressure to fit in, to belong, to never be seen as alone. But the Sigma woman doesn't play by those rules. She's found peace in solitude, and that's where her true strength lies. People find it unsettling because most of us fear being alone. It's ingrained in us to seek out companionship, approval, and validation. But the Sigma woman has reached a point where she doesn't need any of that. She's learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It's the freedom to be completely herself, to dive into her thoughts and dreams without distractions, without needing anyone else's permission or approval. This is where people start to get nervous. They can't fathom a life without constant validation from others, and they don't understand how someone can thrive without always being surrounded by others. To them, it feels like a threat. The Sigma woman isn't running from relationships. She's simply found a deep sense of fulfillment within herself. She can go out into the world, interact with others, and still be perfectly content returning to her own space. She doesn't need to fill every moment with noise or company. This freedom to exist on her own terms makes people feel uneasy because they rely on others to fill the voids in their own lives. When they see someone like the Sigma woman, it forces them to confront their own dependence on social connections. The Sigma woman isn't afraid to sit with herself, to be alone in her thoughts, and to enjoy her own company. And that's what others can't stand. It's a reminder of how dependent they are on others, how much they need external sources of affirmation to feel complete. The Sigma woman doesn't need anyone to complete her because she already feels whole. This independence is what makes her so powerful. She's not afraid to be alone with her thoughts, to face the parts of herself that others may avoid. She's comfortable with silence and solitude because she knows it's where her power grows. People fear this because they can't control her. They can't manipulate someone who is entirely content with herself. The Sigma woman's ability to stand on her own, to be whole without relying on anyone else, makes her unpredictable and uncontrollable. She doesn't need others to feel validated, and that's what terrifies people. They're used to relationships being the source of fulfillment, and when they see someone who is comfortable alone, it challenges their entire way of thinking. It makes them feel like they're missing something important. The Sigma woman has found something most people spend their lives searching for: true independence and self-sufficiency. She doesn't need to fit into anyone's idea of what's normal. She's created her own rules, and she lives by them. And that's why people are scared, because she's free in a way they can't even imagine. 7. She doesn't forgive easily, and people know it. Forgiveness isn't always about letting go. It's about protecting your peace. The Sigma woman doesn't forgive just because she's supposed to. She does it when she's ready. And that boundary, it's dramatic because it shows that she values herself enough not to let people back in just because they ask. People can't handle that level of self-respect. Forgiveness is often seen as a virtue, something that makes you better or more compassionate. Society tells you that forgiving others is essential for moving forward, and that holding grudges only harms you. But for the Sigma woman, forgiveness isn't something she does for the other person. It's something she does for herself, and only when it feels right. She doesn't forgive just because she's expected to. If someone has hurt her, she takes the time to process the pain, to truly understand how that betrayal affects her, and then, when she's ready, she might forgive. But it's on her terms, not anyone else's, and that scares people. They expect forgiveness to be immediate, easy and unconditional. They expect that when they say sorry, everything should go back to normal. But for the Sigma woman, trust is something that needs to be earned, and forgiveness is something she gives only after considering whether the person deserves it. The world doesn't like that. People want to be able to fix their mistakes and expect forgiveness to be their reward. But the Sigma woman has learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean letting people back into her life. It's about recognizing the hurt, acknowledging it, and then choosing whether or not the person deserves a place in her future. When she forgives, it's because she's found peace with the situation, not because she's been convinced to let go. People fear this kind of forgiveness because it forces them to face their own responsibility for the hurt they've caused. It's not a free pass. It's not a guarantee that things will go back to normal. The Sigma woman doesn't give second chances out of obligation. She gives them because she believes the person has truly changed, and even then, she remains cautious. She doesn't just forgive for the sake of it, she does it because it allows her to move forward on her terms. When someone wrongs her, they can't just expect everything to be fine again. She's not afraid to walk away from relationships that no longer serve her, even if it means holding on to a grudge for a while. She understands that forgiveness isn't always about reconciliation. It's about maintaining her own peace and protecting her energy. This is where people get scared. They can't handle the thought of not being automatically forgiven. They want to move on from their mistakes with little consequence, but the Sigma woman isn't afraid to hold people accountable for their actions. Her forgiveness is earned, not freely given, and that's a powerful lesson that people don't always want to learn. When she decides to forgive, she does it for herself, but only when she feels it's truly necessary, and that's what makes her dangerous. She won't let anyone walk back into her life unless she feels it's worth it. 8. Her quiet power is overwhelming. While some try to make noise to prove their worth, the Sigma woman's quiet strength speaks volumes. It's the kind of power that makes others question their own place in the world. The Sigma woman doesn't need to shout or demand attention. She doesn't need to be the loudest person in the room to get what she wants. Her presence alone is enough to make people stop and take notice. It's like she radiates a calm, unshakable energy that draws people in without them even realizing it. There's a certain mystery that surrounds her, and people can't quite figure out what it is. They know she's powerful, but they can't put their finger on why. They expect power to be loud, flashy, and attention-seeking, but the Sigma woman's power doesn't fit into that mold. She doesn't need to prove herself to anyone, and that's what makes her so magnetic. People are often drawn to her because they sense that there's something different about her. She doesn't rely on external validation to feel worthy. She doesn't seek out praise or recognition. The Sigma woman is content in knowing who she is and what she's capable of. And that kind of quiet confidence? It's overwhelming to those who are used to being louder to be heard. The quiet power of the Sigma woman is in her ability to walk into a room and, without saying a word, command the space around her. It's the way she holds herself, the way she moves, the way she interacts with others. Everything she does exudes a calm authority that others can't ignore. It's a silent kind of power that makes people stop and think, what does she know that I don't? This quiet strength doesn't need validation from others. It doesn't need to be acknowledged or applauded. The Sigma woman is secure in her own worth, and that's what makes her so powerful. She doesn't have to make noise to be heard. Her actions speak for themselves. People are afraid of this kind of power because it's not something they can control. They can't predict her moves, they can't manipulate her, and they can't pressure her into doing what they want. She doesn't bend to anyone's will. Instead, she stands firm in her own beliefs and values, and that strength is something that others can't handle. While others scramble for attention or try to assert their dominance, the Sigma woman remains composed and centered. She knows that true power doesn't come from force or noise. It comes from self-assurance and inner peace. The more the Sigma woman embraces her quiet power, the more others around her feel it. It's a kind of subtle influence that shifts the energy of the room, that makes others reconsider their own behavior, and that forces them to question whether they've been living their lives authentically. It's an understated form of power, but it's undeniable. People are intimidated by it because they can't manipulate or overpower her with words or actions. She's not swayed by what others think or say. She trusts herself, and that trust radiates from her in a way that others can't ignore. This kind of quiet power is the most dangerous because it's not about trying to control others. It's about being so sure of your own worth that others can't help but take notice. And that's what makes the Sigma woman so unstoppable. So here's a story for you. A Sigma woman walks into a room full of people she doesn't know. She doesn't need to say a word to command attention. She enters with the quiet confidence that only someone who knows their worth can have. Her presence is felt immediately, not because of her voice, but because of the energy she brings into the room. She stands there, taking everything in, effortlessly absorbing the energy of the room without moving a muscle. She observes every person, the way they stand, the way they shift their eyes, the way they engage with one another. She doesn't have to speak or introduce herself to take control of the space around her. It's as if the room bends to her presence. People start to notice her, but no one can quite figure out why. It's not her outfit, her appearance, or her loudness. It's her energy. Her ability to remain still, yet completely aware, gives her an unmatched control over the environment. People start to feel a shift, like they've just been put under a spell. But the truth is, it's her ability to understand them before they even speak that leaves them unsettled. They feel exposed. It's like she's unlocked a hidden code in the way they behave, reading them before they've even had the chance to say a word. She's aware of the subtle body language, the slight gestures that others may not notice. She can tell who's nervous, who's faking confidence, and who's genuinely interested in the conversation. It's almost like she can see through people's masks, those little lies and facades everyone tries to put up. The thing is, she doesn't need to call people out or make them feel bad about it. She just knows. And that ability to read people, to see beyond the surface, that's where her power lies. It's like she has an invisible radar that detects authenticity, and the people around her feel it. They're suddenly aware that they're not fooling her, even without her saying a word. This leaves them uneasy, unsure of how much they've revealed about themselves without even trying. For the Sigma woman, this isn't about controlling others. It's not a power struggle. She doesn't feel the need to assert dominance. It's simply about being aware of the dynamics in the room, understanding how people operate, and using that knowledge to move through life on her own terms. And that's what makes her so powerful. It's the quiet strength of knowing more than anyone realizes and choosing when to act on that knowledge. She doesn't make a scene. She doesn't yell to be heard. She simply stands, observes, and lets the truth of the situation unfold before her eyes. In a world where everyone is desperate to be seen, heard, and validated, the Sigma woman doesn't chase any of that. She allows people to reveal themselves to her, and in doing so, she gains control. It's not loud or flashy. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it's undeniable. She holds the room without saying a word, and that's what makes her so unstoppable. So let's wrap this up. The broken Sigma woman isn't someone to be feared because she's weak. She's feared because she's stronger. She doesn't need anyone to fix her. She doesn't need validation, and she certainly doesn't need to shout to be heard. Her power comes from her ability to rise from the ashes and stand tall, not in spite of her brokenness, but because of it. She's been through the fire and has emerged unscathed, more confident, more self-aware, and more powerful than ever. That's why society is scared. They don't know how to handle a woman who can stand alone, who doesn't rely on anyone else to define her. She's not afraid to walk away from what doesn't serve her, to be silent when needed, and to embrace her solitude when others would feel lost. She's feared because, even in her brokenness, she is the strongest force in the room. If you felt empowered by today's video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay connected with more content like this. Let me know in the comments what makes you feel strong as a Sigma female. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this, and let's keep growing together. Stay strong, stay Sigma. See you in the next one.